Welcome to Kings of Kimuras.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Kings of Kimuras podcast. Today I have one of our other coaches, Steven Schneiderman, with us. You want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name's Steven. I'm the kids coach here at Plano, and happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me out.
So I know we've been trying to get you on the podcast for a while, but it's either after training we're too tired to do it, or something's going on. Obviously, you're pretty busy. What do you have coming up?
So I have two competitions coming up. I have a cash bracket. It's a 1,500 cash bracket. It's out in Portland, and then I'm going to be doing the Phoenix ADCC Open at the end of this month. So I'm super stoked for that.
How many people are in that bracket in Portland?
It's going to be a 16-man bracket. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't know if it's fully filled out. But it looks pretty stacked. A lot of people that I've never heard of or seen before from different gyms, but a lot of 10th Planet Portland affiliations and stuff like that are in
Is
there.
it inside of a gym, or have they rented a venue? Or?
So they got a hotel, actually, in the Portland airport, which was one of the main reasons I did it. I was I could just fly in, compete, and fly back the same day. So it'll be a quick turnaround trip.
Have you been to Portland before?
Never. I'm excited to stay in the airport. I don't want to go out there too much, for sure.
Portland is not a bad place. I went there in 2017. I just stayed one day. Well, I should say I stayed 2 days because we flew into Portland and then we drove to Bend, Oregon, which was probably one of the coolest drives I think I've ever done, because you're going from a super wetland area up through this rainforest over the mountain, and then when you come down the other side, it's all kind of like a desert, big valleys and stuff. But Portland itself was cool. We went out a little bit and we had some food. We stayed in a city called, I want to say it was called Gresham.
Okay.
So it's a little suburb, kind of like how Plano or Richardson is to Dallas. But it wasn't bad. I know there's been a bunch of crazy stuff that's happened since then.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think Portland has always been pretty weird,
Yeah. Yeah. It has that reputation for sure.
But there's definitely some good food up there,
Yeah. Maybe I'll be able to Uber to something close.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. I remember the airport being not like a normal airport. There was a lot of different, not tropical growth, but a lot of plants everywhere. They try to make it feel like you're not in an urban area.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I've never been into that side of the state, so I'm super excited to see what it has to offer, for sure. Excited to get some cash money.
Yeah. Well, and then you're going to Phoenix?
Yeah.
So that's in Scottsdale probably, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Have you been there before?
I haven't. I've driven through Arizona. I drove to American Nationals from here to Las Vegas, which was a horrible drive. But that was in 2018. We just drove past Arizona. Yeah. It was just all desert.
Yeah, they consider everything Phoenix there, but Phoenix and Scottsdale, I think they're 20, 30 minutes apart.
Oh, really?
But Scottsdale is very nice. It's where all the wealthy people live.
Nice.
So I remember we competed there a few years back when we did that team trip out there, and Scottsdale was it was pretty nice. It was one of the nicer cities that I think we've traveled to compete in. Normally it's they'll call it Dallas, but then you're in North Richland Hills or something. It's not really the city, but there it's nice. It was a big, almost kind of looked like a big aircraft hangar. When we were there, there's a crazy story I can tell real quick. We had gotten there that morning. We're trying to get our media guy Dang through. And so I set up by the bleachers in there's a couple chairs outside the bleachers, and I have my bag sitting there, and this guy comes up, older guy, and he's trying to sit in the chair. I'm like, hey, these are our chairs. He's like, oh, my bad. And he gets up, and then he starts to walk towards the bleachers and just falls down face first. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And I run over there and I check on the guy, and he's completely passed out.
Damn.
And I roll him over, and he's like, no, I'm fine. He's sitting up, and I put him in our chair. And as he sits in the chair, he just slumps, turns completely white. he was having like a massive heart attack.
Holy shit.
And fortunately, there were like a lot of medics there, and even some people competing in the event were like nurses and doctors. And they came over and like started checking the guy, and he came to, but he was like trying to get up and leave, and they were convincing him like, no, man, you need to go to the hospital, you know? And
Yeah.
he was probably like in his early 60s or something, you know?
Oh, wow.
But like, you know, I felt bad afterwards because I was like, man, this guy was trying to sit down because he was about to pass out, and I had no idea. I thought he was just a guy like taking my chair.
Next thing you know, he's just passing out next to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. One city that really like surprised me when we went out to Louisville, Kentucky,
Yeah.
and competed to that ADCC. I honestly loved it. I would love to go back and compete there again.
Yeah.
Just the vibes were good. Our Airbnb was super nice.
Yeah, we stayed like pretty far out, you know. We're like 30 minutes outside the city, but I think everything was like so expensive there because that weekend they had some kind of like bourbon trail or something going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I would have rather stayed in the city, but you know, it was like $500 a night to stay in the city, and I'm like, man, that's too much for like what we're coming to do, you know. But the Airbnb was really nice, and yeah, the overall like the city was great. You guys got that like barbecue chicken or whatever it was the night before.
Yeah, we went to this like hole in the wall, like halal place. It was just run. We just saw good reviews, and the food was incredible. The service was great, and it's funny. I didn't think Kentucky would have good Mediterranean food, but damn, that shit was amazing.
Yeah, before we took off, I was like looking online to like where's some good place to get clean food, and everybody was saying that spot, and all the guy did was chicken, right? I mean that was it.
Yeah, he chicken master.
Yeah.
Shout out to that guy from Louisville. That was amazing.
And then after the tournament, we were convinced by Brad to go to this one place, and you know, looking at it, it was like pretty cool because it was a former church. But then like as I got inside there, and I'm like thinking like, man, this used to be like a very holy place, and now it's like known for like people getting hammered, you know, like drunk. It felt odd. Mm-hmm. And then to top that off, it was the worst food that I think I've ever had. I mean, we were so hungry, we were eating it.
Yeah.
But it was one of those places where like when I got done eating there, I wanted to eat something different.
100%. It was like cardboard pizza, and it's like when we went into the church, it was beautiful. I mean, the venue was great, but it was like 10 aisles of just bourbon, straight from floor to ceiling, and I was like, damn, okay, it's another take on a church for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to see that happen, you know, like it makes you wonder like what happened to that congregation to where it goes from like being a thriving church, because obviously you could tell the architecture of it was not like something like you see today that's like thrown together like a metal building, you know. It was like you know, very ornate in the way it was built, like real wood floors on the inside, and you know, like I wonder what happens to where a church can't just stay open like that, you know? It's strange.
It was a beautiful building. I'm sure it's been around forever, you know, so I wonder how the ownership changed, or what happened to like give him a liquor license and the whole 9 yards, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's one of those things where, you know, over time, like people move out of the area, and so people aren't supporting that church because most churches are nonprofits. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they get out of like paying a lot of like property tax and stuff, but it's funded by the people, you know, and if people aren't going there, obviously it's not getting money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting. You know, it kind of reminded me of like the movie Blade or something, because it was all like neon lights outside. And like, just very strange.
Yeah, super dark setting.
But the venue that we competed in was good. You know, parking was okay.
It was ran great. The whole tournament ran great. Dom had an amazing run and lost to the finals against Ryan Aitken. I fought some pretty tough guys and had great matches. It was a fun tournament. I'd love to go back to Louisville. That's for sure.
So you've been training with us for a long time. You know, I've known you since you were like either 12 or 13 or something like that. And has it always been your goal to teach jiu-jitsu, or is that like something that you kind of figured out along the way?
I was kind of like at first pushed into teaching. I was training at Soul Fighters, which is where we met. I got promoted from white to brown belt under Tank. and he just needed some extra hands in the kids class. And I didn't really think twice about it. I was like, okay, like I want to get buddy with my professor. So let me see if I can help him out. So he asked me to help teach a class one time, and I just loved it. I never thought I'd be teaching as a career, but learning from him and seeing how the students grow and develop and seeing them, execute what we're showing them, like it's very gratifying. So I was like, oh, this is something I want to do. And I knew like right away, maybe like a year after I started helping Tank, I was like, okay, I want to do this forever. I love teaching kids. I want to be a coach and share my passion with others. You know?
And since then, since you've been teaching with us, you started your Little Grapplers program. You want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
So I was teaching at another gym, Rockstar, for a while, and it was basically an all kids gym. I mean, I would teach like 5-6 classes a day, back to back, all kids, and I loved it. But I just wasn't getting as fulfilled at that gym, and you proposed the opportunity to teach at your place. And I love what you're doing here with the no-gi scene and just the whole culture that you've built. So I was like, I need to be a part of this right away. But I ran out of the money. Like I had like 3 months. I think I left Rockstar April, May, and you didn't start the kids till like August, September.
Yeah.
So I had like 3 months of just training full time, and I honestly blew through all my savings. I was just training, eating, traveling, hanging out, not caring. And I just checked my bank account one day, and I was like, oh shit, I need to make more money. And Joey Huerta, he helped us with the kids class in the beginning. He's like, hey, my kids go to this daycare across the street. They'd love to have like a martial arts program. And we just started like that. I did it under you guys for a little bit, and after talking, I was like, maybe I can expand this business of like a jiu-jitsu daycare service where I come in and teach like a PE class and show some jiu-jitsu. And I'm very fortunate. It's been flourishing. I have 3 good locations around the DFW. It's a great time.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's, being an entrepreneur is all about like taking those opportunities and making the most of them. When I started teaching kids, I kind of like you, my coach asked me one day to like help with a class, and then before long I was like teaching all of the classes for the kids. And once that gym started to kind of like fall apart, they had some like personal issues, the owners did. That's when I took a kids program and moved it to the rec center here in Richardson. Yeah. And I was pretty fortunate at the time that they didn't make me really pay anything. They had mats, and so I could just come in and teach classes. And I kind of grew that into the position of like being able to afford a rental space. And that's when we got the first Corvo gym, so just making the most of that opportunity. When I started that, I had no idea where I was going to go with it. I thought, I'm just going to teach here for, not forever, but like I didn't have any timeline of like when I'm going to do the next thing.
Yeah.
And it's just always kind of like, at some point you see that, okay, this is my time to transition into the next thing, Yeah. And that kind of leads me to like your decision now to be a firefighter,
Yeah. It was almost like spontaneous in a way. I've been doing a lot of background research about just a way to be like financially like stable while able to, give back to the community, be able to do my business and train. And firefighting just seemed the way to go. I never thought I'd be a firefighter, but for me, I take opportunities. I like roll with the punches. As life comes at me and things happen, I try to make the most of it and like capitalize on the time that I have now. So I start that next month. So I'm super excited.
How do you feel about being in a potential situation where you have to save someone's life, or you have to like risk your life to save someone? Have you considered that even?
Yeah, I've like kind of dreamed about these situations, like what would I do? And for me, it comes down to my training. Like I feel confident I'd be able to execute and put myself out of it to help someone else if I'm confident that I know what to do. Right now, it's all up in the air because I haven't been trained in firefighting or EMT or anything.
Right.
But I believe with the proper training and that confidence, I'd be able to step out of myself and help that person in need
Yeah.
100%, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think you have to be very situational aware, when you're doing a job like that. I worked as an electrician for many years, and it's a very dangerous job in the sense of, like, you can't look at something and tell that it has electricity flowing through it or not, right? So there's always that danger of, like, if I touch this, it could potentially kill me.
Yeah.
And that taught me very early on. I had a great mentor during that process of, to double check, triple check everything before I would do any kind of work. And, there is sometimes of, like, I made a mistake and, either something blew up or, like, I shocked myself.
Yeah.
But that always, like, was a learning opportunity for me where I'm like, okay, like, I understand what happened there. I'm not going to make that same mistake again. And then I think there will be some of that, it kind of relates to jiu-jitsu, like, you don't know until you know, right? And you get caught in an arm bar and you get your elbow hyperextended and you're like, okay, well, that is not going to happen again because I need to know what my limitations are, So I think there will be some of that. I don't think that, I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm, like, trying to say, like, in everything that you do in life, there will be some learning from your mistakes.
100%. And that's something jiu-jitsu has taught me so much, I feel confident, like, I can stay calm under pressure and fall back on my training.
Yeah.
And that just kind of goes back with, like, staying very present and in the moment during this learning process. This is something I've done jiu-jitsu since I was a kid. My whole life it's been teaching, training, and I've been in a very comfortable state of, like, oh, I'm confident in what I do. Now I'm branching off into something totally different.
Right.
So there will be a learning curve that I'm definitely expecting, but with jiu-jitsu and that confidence that it gave me to overcome obstacles, I'm sure that I'll be a great firefighter and a great asset to the station.
Yeah, I don't think that's you're talking a little bit about, like, being a kid and training jiu-jitsu, and I don't think enough parents understand that if you put your kid in something difficult at a young age, it prepares them for difficulties later on in life. Like, I can't tell you how many adults come in here that have never done anything in their life, and not even lifting weights or anything physical, and they're just completely, like, out of shape and mentally even not able to push themselves. I was having a conversation with a young guy, and he was talking about one of the wrestlers that he was training with, pushing him, and he's like, I feel like it's malicious. And I'm like, no, man, it's not malicious. Like, that is how wrestlers train, and it's a mental game. If somebody is pushing you and you're backing away and kind of cowering, they know that they're winning in that mental battle, and had that person started jiu-jitsu when they were, 10 years old. Right. I mean, you've got, I don't know how old he is, early 20s, but let's say he had 12 years of experience of training in jiu-jitsu. Like, during that time period somewhere, you're going to have somebody that is, like, beating you, you know, and being able to kind of weather that storm and not back down from that will directly relate to having problems in the workplace or, dealing with somebody that is, like, bullying you in a life situation. And I think that's a thing that a lot of, like, young people lack these days, is that, being in a tough situation and being able to deal with it. So many people now are like, oh, I'm in a tough situation, I'm just going to, like, cower away and get out of here as fast as possible.
Yeah, like, people don't know how to respond with that fight or flight, and that's something I was always, like, a very timid kid. I was bullied a lot, and when there was adversity, I'd run away. Like, I was not that type of kid that was always athletic or strong or confident within myself. But jiu-jitsu, any martial art really, but jiu-jitsu, I think, has a beautiful way of showing you, like, yo, danger is right in front of you, 2 feet away, and you got to deal with it, or you're going to get slapped around, or you're going to get submitted, and it's going to keep happening unless you, like, dive into the problem.
Right.
Play in the fire. You know?
And, those people that come in later in life that decide, like, oh, I want to go compete, and then they go and they have what I would consider a bad experience because they're not mentally prepared for what's going to happen. It kind of, like, turns them off from the sport, whereas I feel like if somebody has like experienced even loss at like a younger age, you're okay with losing. You know, nobody wants to lose, but at the end of the day, you know, that whole thing about like you win or you learn is very true, because you can learn a lot, not only about yourself, how you take a loss and how you come back from it, but also about, you know, like application of techniques or positions. It kind of gives you like a real life experience of, you know, what you were doing wrong.
For sure. Yeah. I don't know where I'd be without jiu-jitsu. Honestly, I think every kid, every child, every parent, put your kids into tough situations. Like that's the only place where I think they'll grow truly as people and as whatever they want to do, athletes, scholars. I think just putting them into hard situations and like giving them the space to figure it out. Luckily, you have an amazing program here. You're an amazing coach. Dom's an amazing kids instructor. Like you give these kids and adults an opportunity to like flourish under this pressure.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some gym cultures out there that they kind of like dog you down and they just try to beat you up. And if you can't handle the beating, then you're out. Yeah. You know, and that's something I think we have very special here.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that. You know, you're a great coach as well. Sometimes there's, you know, we have parents that haven't really experienced anything tough either, right? And then they put their kid in jiu-jitsu and they see their kid is, you know, maybe they're like complaining about it. And when they go home, like, I don't want to do it anymore. And so the parent is like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take my kid out of that. And I think that that's the wrong approach, because, you know, kids are very, you know, 1 second they're this and 1 second they're that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, someday your kid wants to be a pirate, right? So you're going to like, okay, we're going to commit to being a pirate, you know, like you have to allow your kid to, you know, learn to lose, because it's just going to help them so much later on in life. You know, it's crazy how many parents these days are soft, you know?
Absolutely. I think kids need structure more than they think they need it, you know? Structure is super important for kids. And that's the thing, like there's times in training or there's even weeks and months where I don't feel motivated, but I still show up. And the motivation comes from continuing to be consistent in the class, training, learning. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like these parents just got to instill in these kids consistency is the key to success in all things. Yeah. You know, you're not always going to want to, you're not always going to feel 100%, but you always got to give your 100%. And I think that's the main lesson I try to instill in my students is I know, like I tell them all the time, I know you might feel lazy today or tired or hungry or distracted, but if you give me your best today, your 100% today, you're getting better. You know, because not every day you're going to show up at your best. Yeah. You're going to show up at your worst. You're going to show up, you have other things on your mind. Kids' attention spans are like, they're gone in an instant, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's the same for even myself. You know, there's some days where I don't feel like showing up to teach a class, but, you know, I show up and I teach. And like when I come through the door, whatever it is that, you know, is affecting me, whether that's, you know, personal things or, you know, maybe I'm just like busy with a bunch of different projects, I still show up and I teach and I give my best effort. And normally on those days when I had that kind of like feeling of not wanting to show up, those are some of my best classes because I'm very cognizant of like how I felt. And I know that people spend their day at work and then they come here and this is their way to kind of like reset themselves of like dealing with the stress from work. And so when I show up, I try to teach the best class that I can. And most of the time, nobody can like tell that I had anything going on. And I'll have a conversation with Susan on my way home of like, you know, I feel like that was like one of my best classes that I ever taught.
Yeah. I definitely have those moments too. I have a lot on my mind or the business or training. And I'm like, man, I just don't want to teach 3-year-olds right now. But then I show up to the class and I see their like enthusiasm and their reciprocation. They're like, oh, I'm so excited to come. And we're so happy to see you, Steven. And they work hard. It like lights that fire back in me. And I'm like, okay, just stay present and enjoy the moment. And it always works out.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're like traveling for a tournament or something, the kids will come in. They're like, "Where's Coach Steven at today?" You know, you don't really realize the impact that you have on other people's lives until you have like a position like this, you know, where like people look to you for, you know, not only like jiu-jitsu answers, but like for inspiration of like, you know, continuing to train, you know.
Definitely.
You know, recently I want to talk a little bit about, we launched our Circle app, and you were kind of like involved with some of the filming on that stuff.
Yeah.
And the first two sections that we launched were, one is like the intro to Corvo, where, you know, it has some basic stuff about like how to hip escape and bridge, and, you know, cleanliness on the mat, and
Super
you know,
important.
like etiquette for attending a class. And then our first like full module that we released was the intro to close guard, or sorry, intro to open guard. Mm-hmm. And we kind of touched on like a few different topics, and it was cool to work with you and Dom on that and record that and see like your concepts on, you know, your interpretation, I should say, on like certain techniques. And then we all kind of like collaborated together on that, you know.
Yeah, I think first, that Circle app is awesome. I think it gives a great like platform for new students to come in and not to feel so totally lost. I know when I came in, they just threw me to the wolves and I had to like fend for myself. Mm-hmm. But with that Circle app and all the filming we've been doing, I think it will help a lot of people just kind of level up the gym.
Yeah.
It'll help people come in with an idea of what these terms mean. You know, when you come in with a blank slate, you're like, I don't know what single leg X, I don't know what guard is. Mm-hmm. But having this app and having these new members see it and be like, oh, this is what guard is, they come into class, and it's just so much easier on us as coaches too, to have people like come in and just have an idea of what we're talking about. I feel like that's the hardest part, because some people come in, they see MMA, they watch UFC, but they don't really know what jiu-jitsu is. And having an app and like a platform for new students, or even people who've been training for a long time, kind of see that and then come into class with a better idea, it's just going to help spur the level of the gym, you know?
Yeah. A lot of people have asked me, you know, like, well, where should I watch techniques? And I would always say, well, you know, go on our YouTube page and watch some techniques. And, you know, there's not a ton of like great detailed techniques. It's a lot of like rolling film. And there is some like class stuff that we filmed on there. And it's a good resource for sure. But I don't necessarily want to like put our teaching structure out on like a public forum like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if people are here and members and paying for that, that's something that they should get, you know? Mm-hmm. And so building this application and then not charging our members anything extra to be able to use it is something that I really wanted to do. And again, like you're saying, like as a beginner, you can really get on there and learn a lot of these, you know, situational positions and names of techniques and how to bridge basically, and, you know, where your hand placement should be, what you should be looking for. So, you know, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, but finding the right application, and I have to thank J-Flow for that, because he started this as well. And, you know, I was in a meeting one day with him. I'm like, man, why don't I just do the same thing, you know? And it's been great. And we already have our part of our second section film, which is going to be no-gi close guard. What I'm most excited for on there is that, you know, each one of you guys as instructors can film an instructional, and we can, you know, put that for sale on there. You know, we'll have a lot of free stuff on there, but there will be some paid stuff. And then we can also offer that to people outside the gym as well, you know? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know any other gym that's doing this. Mm-hmm. So I think we're ahead of the curve on this.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see like the benefits of this app as the gym progresses, and seeing how these new white belts kind of how they improve in their jiu-jitsu journey with added platforms like this. It's going to be super cool.
Well, man, thank you for joining us today. We're running out of time here. So make sure you guys check us out on all platforms to listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Check us out, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
And that's a wrap for today's Kings of Kimuras episode. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey. Remember to keep training, stay curious, and always be ready for the next adventure. Until next time, keep your guards up and your minds open.